Okay, I'd like to call to order the July 27th, 2007 Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting at 7:03. Roll call, Jen, please.
Chairman Dash.
Here.
Commissioner Watson. Commissioner-
Hold on. Commissioner Watson is absent by prior notice.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Here.
Commissioner Patel.
Here.
Commissioner Tamman.
Here.
Commissioner Kempa.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum this evening. So our first item would be the approval of minutes from the May 25th, 2017 PZBA meeting. Are there any comments, changes, or corrections to the meeting's minutes as presented? If not, do I have a motion to approve the May 25th, 2017 PZBA minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Jen, roll call, please.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Abstain.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman.
Aye.
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Chairman Dash.
Aye. Okay. So our first item under old business is PZBA zoning public hearing, case number ZBA 17-05SU, and the applicant is Ruben Avias from Lucky 7 Cafe, addressed at 1513 East Thayer in Mount Prospect, Illinois. And the description of his request would be for us to consider a special use permit for a 950 square foot sit-down restaurant in the B1 Retail Business District per section 5-7-2C of the zoning ordinance for the property commonly known as 5 South Wolf Road in Prospect Heights. So first I need a motion to reopen the public hearing for application number ZBA 17-05SU.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so do we need to swear anyone in this evening?
I would recommend that if there's anybody else that would like to provide testimony, they be sworn in now.
Okay, so if anyone's here this evening to speak to this case, you can stand now and I can swear you in. Okay, so, and then when you come up, you'll just need to state your name and address for the record. So do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Okay, so Director Peterson?
Okay, this is a case that has had a couple of continuances to allow the applicant time to prepare better plans and work with staff to make sure that they meet the requirements of the building code for a sit-down restaurant. The plans that you received this evening from J&H Design that Mr. Avias provided show the existing floor plan, power plan, and ceiling plan. Based on discussions, and we'll look specifically at floor plan to the left, Mr. Avias is proposing to add a second handicap accessible bathroom, which would provide 2 accessible bathrooms in the facility, which would meet the Illinois Department of Public Health's requirements for bathrooms for a restaurant. Also noted that this facility already has a pre-existing commercial kitchen hood, a pre-existing commercial oven, and a commercial 3-compartment sink. Other improvements already in the site are the small bar area with the 3-compartment sink and a hand sink as well. There is a service bathroom off the back of the kitchen, which may or may not be kept in that condition, but it does not apply for the handicap bathroom requirements by the code. So Mr. Avias is here to answer questions regarding his facility and his plans for his restaurant. But under the minimum requirements for a restaurant, the building codes, he has met those.
Great. So if you'd like to step forward, you're more than welcome to. Oh, so I didn't and swear him in.
For the record, Mr. Avias has been previously sworn in at the
Good.
first hearing, so
Thank
he
you.
does not have to re-swear in.
So, does he need to state his name and address
Yes,
for the
please.
record?
Yes, my name is Ruben Aviles, Aviles. My address is 1513 East Terrace Street, Mount Prospect, Illinois.
Thank you.
Zip code 60056.
Thank you.
Ruben, why don't you, for the record, restate your restaurant concept and what your plans are for the space, hours of operation, description of menu, anything that will help the PZBA members in deliberating tonight.
Yeah, I have the menu. I have also a cook with license already, and I have compliant with everything that they have given me so far. And I'm building a second washroom, you know. And also, I did also, to tell you the truth, I also did apply for the liquor license.
So what kind of food would you be serving at this sit-down restaurant?
Tacos, cheeseburger, hot dogs, chicken wings,
Okay,
steak sandwiches.
okay.
How many people will the restaurant sit?
30.
30 people.
Yeah, I have enough chairs for 30.
And what would be your hours of operation?
I'll be opening from 9 to 11.
7 days a week, or?
No, well, Sundays probably from noon to about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock.
Okay. So, do you have any other comments, or should I go ahead and?
At this time, for the record, please be advised that the authority of the Plan Commission is strictly to determine whether or not the applicant has met the criteria for a sit-down restaurant. Any determination of liquor licenses are determined by the city council based on his compliance with the liquor code. Additionally, if there is any gaming that may or may not come to the facility is determined by the state of Illinois and not by this body. So we are here tonight to determine if the applicant in his plans that have been submitted, it warrants the approval of a special use for a sit-down restaurant. Additionally, as previously stated, the facility does have adequate parking to meet
Yes.
the requirements of the zoning code for parking for a sit-down restaurant. And there are other sit-down restaurants in the mall at this
Right.
present time. So that's all I have to say.
Great, okay, then I'm going to go ahead and request a motion to close the public hearing on application number ZBA 17-05SU.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now I'll need a motion to receive into the public record the staff review of compliance of this application with the zoning standards as presented by staff this evening, and to make these standards a part of the official record for the application.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Do we need to put this in evidence this evening?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'd also need a motion to receive into the public record the existing record drawing for the proposed Rubens Bar and Grill prepared by JH Design, labeled as sheet A1. Motion, please.
Motion?
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Discussion of him.
What was it?
No, if you had discussion of him.
Is there any additional discussion needed by any of the commissioners, or, I mean, again, if it appears that the application meets the current requirements per our code, and as we've discussed, there's other restaurants within this strip mall, so I feel that the special use appears to be consistent with what's transpiring in that area. So unless anyone else has other comments, we could move forward with a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay? So the motion then would be to recommend to the city council to approve the following request, that we issue a special use permit for a 950 square foot sit-down restaurant in the B1 Retail Business District per section 5-7-2C of the zoning ordinance for the property commonly known as 5 South Wolf Road, Prospect Heights, Illinois. So thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Jen, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kempa,
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff,
Aye.
Chairman Dash.
Aye. So as Director Peterson mentioned, we are a recommending body, and this will go to the city council.
The next city council meeting won't be until the 28th of August. They have already announced that there will not be a meeting on the 14th.
Okay,
Okay,
28?
the 28th, yeah, it's already been canceled by the city council. So also, at that time, Ruben, we will sit down and talk to make sure that you've got all your stuff prepared for that meeting.
Plus,
Great.
so I have to wait until August 28th to build a washroom, or
Um,
I get the permit like we talked?
We can talk about that tomorrow, okay?
All right.
Let's do this. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. I'm by myself tomorrow. Let's
Monday.
do it Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the second item on old business is PZBA zoning public hearing, case number ZBA 17-06V. And the applicant is Joe Pascucci at 697 Glendale Drive in Prospect Heights. And the description of the request this evening has changed slightly. Originally, the application was for a variance to encroach 13 feet into the required 15-foot side yard setback for the purposes of constructing a third car bay onto the primary structure to store a work truck per section 5-6-1E2 of the City of Prospect Heights zoning code. The application was amended to request a variation to encroach 3 feet into a required 5-foot side yard setback for the purpose of constructing a driveway in the required side yard to access his rear yard so he can construct a detached garage per section 5-6-2E2A. So I will now need a motion to reopen the public hearing for application number ZBA 17-06V.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so if you're here this evening to present or make comments, if you'd like to stand, I can swear everyone in at the same time. And then when you come up, you'll just state your name and address for the record. So if you raise your hand, do you state that the testimony you will be giving tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you. Director Peterson, your comments, please.
The applicant, Mr. Pascucci, has been working diligently to see about meeting the city zoning code and the city code regarding flood control. Mr. Pascucci's property is such where there's a large portion of the property that is in a 100-year floodplain and falls under the requirements of the city code under our flood control ordinance. As a result of that, there's been additional testing that has been required, additional design and work that's been required of Mr. Pascucci to verify that the project that he would like to do could even move forward. Over the last month, we've had meetings with himself as engineer, designer, attorney. We have gone over some records, some test results, some additional testings were required that the city has not received as of yet. In talking with Mr. Pascucci, he did say that those tests were being completed. However, the city has not seen them yet, so that is the status of where we are at today.
Okay.
Additionally, I'm sorry, this body will have to, at some point, make a determination on site approval for the flood control variation, but that would be in the role as Plan Commission, not as the Zoning Board of Appeals. And that section of the codes, which I put on the agenda and in the report, is 7-112 of the city code, which can be found online. And please familiarize yourself with those requirements as this moves forward. All right.
Okay, so being that we don't have the additional information, do we need to, do we want Mr. Pascucci to revisit the application?
Let's see where Mr.
Okay,
Pascucci is
perfect.
at tonight.
Good evening.
Great, thank you.
Councilman.
And just your name and address for the record, please?
Joseph H. Pascucci, 697 Glendale Drive, Prospect Heights, Illinois.
Thank you.
So tonight, I have the documents. Myself, Dan, and Steve Brez were working on one other requirement that they had asked, and it's basically on helical piers to be put into the ground so that the foundation doesn't settle. And the test was done, it was completed, and they found the correct distance that we need to, or the depth that we need to go down to put the piers in. And I have the paperwork from the company, and it basically states how many, how deep, and basically what needs to be done. I have 8 copies.
Okay. Let the record show that Mr. Pascucci submitted a report from Elite Peering LLC, P.O. Box 281, Gurnee, Illinois, 60031, dated July 27th, into the record. Let it be known that a review of this document has not been completed by staff at this time. Thank you. So based on the fact that we're just turning this in and haven't had a review, I don't think it would be fair to move forward with any form of action at this time, but that's to the will of the PZBA.
Well, I guess my first question, just glancing at it, were we expecting additional geotechnical information or just a quote that some contractor said they can do the work?
This, I believe, was a report in quote based on testing that was performed by this company, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
They took the soil testing report, and they calculated with, I guess, the geotechnical, and they take the report, and then they come out and they do a test pier. And what they do is they drill into the ground, and they go to a depth with a torque meter to determine how deep it is until they hit solid ground that is
Bearing, yeah,
bearing,
correct.
yes, for load bearing, and that's what they came up with, was 42 feet.
it's an expensive
How many
garage,
feet?
Mr. Pascucci.
Yes, we're looking at that. Obviously, that's one quote. I did speak with another company, and they're working on getting another quote, so.
Additionally, we're not in a position to discuss the flood control at this time because the civil engineer that was hired by Mr. Pascucci did submit some drawings. However, our city engineer did not get comments back to them until this week, so we're still a little behind. So in fairness to this application, give it the thought process, I think one more month from a staff perspective would be
Because is it,
necessary.
and is it a true statement that the variation request to the flood control ordinance would need to take place prior to us approving the variance?
Correct. To put this in perspective, this issue with the flood control ordinance came about after the original application for a variation came in. So it was always listed as old business for the variation. However, as we move forward, the next item of business before we go on to the variance request for this driveway would be to address the flood control ordinance first at the next meeting. Because depending on the outcome of that, may or may not lead forward to the variation of the driveway. Mr. Pascucci has been working diligently with engineering and design and coming up to meet the criteria for FEMA on a flood-proof construction design. He's working for compensatory storage, which would equate to 1.5 added storage over what he's displacing. So those are all variables that need to be reported, and I would like to have the city engineer here at this time at our next meeting to make sure that any questions you have can be answered correctly.
Agree. So although I don't think we're going to, we'll probably seek a continuance this evening, I hope you understand that it's not because we're, have any opinion one way or the other at this point, but without a complete package and procedurally doing things in the correct order, we're going to have to.
I agree, and
likely-
this information, we just kind of came about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I hopped on it right away, and
Right,
it was actually given to me about 2 hours ago.
right,
So-
right. I see it's dated today. So, right, so thank you for being understanding. I think you guys are doing a great job collaborating on.
Thank you.
And getting this to the finish line, but right now, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to see you one more month.
I agree.
So then, I guess I would, actually, want to take public testimony, though, if there's anyone here to speak. So if you'd like to take a seat, we're going to see if there's anyone else here this evening that wishes to testify. So if you'd like to testify, or,
I mean, there's not much to specify. We were just concerned about the flood control because we're 2 houses down.
okay, so why don't you come forward and we can discuss that,
Yeah, that's a valid question.
right? If you made the effort to come this evening, so we might as well have the conversation, right?
Like I said, we're just trying to find out
Right.
what the plan is and if it's going to impact us at all.
So if you could just state your name and address for the record, please?
Mike Levanti and my wife Maureen, and we're at 701 Glendale.
I will-
Can you spell your last name, please?
LEV as in Victor, ANTI.
Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you for coming this evening. So your concern is,
Well, it's been a wet summer, and we've had
It's an
more water in our backyard than I think we've ever had. And it's kind of strange because I don't think we're probably at the lowest point, because I think, the other two neighbors in front, there's quite a bit of water there too. But for the backyard, we have quite a bit in there, and we were just kind of concerned about how much paving is going to affect, what happens in a.
right, more additional pervious
in a
area,
Big
right?
flood, so we have any problems with the foundation and things like that.
What I can tell you is that Mr. Pascucci's civil engineer is designing the driveway to be a holding, to hold the water until it properly displaces away from the site. And he's calculating, trying to compensate for 1.5, 105 or 150% of the displaced water. Any structure that goes in, let's say it's 100 square feet, he has to accommodate for 150 square feet of storage, water storage. That's what they're working on right now, is to try and make sure that that works, so whatever he puts in doesn't either affect upstream or downstream.
Now, we were just trying to figure out, we know it's going to go somewhere, and it generally goes to the lowest point, so that's all. I'm not positive, but I think we're the lowest point, at least in the back.
Well, there will be a lot of engineering involved here to make sure that whatever, if something is built, that it meets all of the requirements per our code, and then above and beyond whatever the, FEMA may require as it's in this flood area, so.
Yeah, well, like you said, because they actually very nice, came and told us what their plans were, but then
Right.
it did kind of change from just
Right.
a bay to like a driveway and a.
Right,
and a
right,
garage. So, we're just trying to figure out,
right.
make sure everything's okay in terms of if we have another spring or summer like we just had.
Mr. Levente, could you give us your phone number so that we can? contact you?
847-255-3460.
Okay,
That's home phone.
great.
That's.
Thank you. No, thank you for coming this evening.
We will get something to you prior to next meeting.
Okay. Okay, so any other, any of the commissioners feel that we need additional conversation this evening before we close the public hearing?
I'd like one clarification from Director Peterson. When we build in a floodway or a floodplain, is there obviously there's requirements from FEMA, but is there a score that FEMA gives us, or as far as that that we get rated or negatively against us, or how does that work?
In doing some more research along that line, we are in what's called a community rating system for flood control and flood management. And we have a certain standing within that range. If the design meets the 1.5% for comp storage and is a uninhabitable structure, i.e. a shed or detached garage, and it meets the flood-proof construction requirements of FEMA, it should not negatively impact our rating. So those are all some of the criterias that are being evaluated with the application.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, any other discussion before we close the public hearing? Okay,
I'll
then,
continue it.
oh, sorry, continue it. We're going to need now a motion to continue the public hearing on application number ZBA 17-06V.
I'll make that motion.
In a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For the record, that will be August 24th.
Okay. All right. So then I guess we will move on to new business. So do we need to address the first item in regards to the site plan approval variation, or?
Actually, this, due to the action of continuing the public hearing, we will move the Plan Commission public meeting to the first item on next month's agenda.
Okay.
So then the order would be the public meeting for the flood control ordinance variation, followed by the continuation of the zoning application, because if the first one doesn't go through, there's no reason to have the second part.
Okay.
All right?
All right, then we'll move on to our, actually, I believe the second item under new business may be removed from our agenda this evening.
That is correct. It was brought to my attention today that one of the noticing requirements for the next case, ZBA 1709TA, was not correct. And so therefore, it incorrectly referenced the subject property, and all the people who would have got that notice wouldn't have understood it was for one of their neighboring properties. So they will be re-noticed, and it will be on the agenda for next month.
Okay. So then we can move on to communications.
Yes. Guys, we need to fill a seat.
So if there's anyone out there watching,
We have an open vacant seat on the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals. Sorry, Ruben, you got to be a Prospect Heights resident. So if you're interested, please contact my office at the city's phone number, 847-398-6070, extension 211. And particularly someone who's interested in design, engineering, has a construction background or skills that they feel would be valuable here. And if any of you know anybody who's looking for a little one-night-a-week gig or one-night-a-month gig, it would be great.
great. We'll continue to keep brainstorming. Any other communications? No? Okay, then I will go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn the July 27th, 2017 Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting.
I'll give you that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.